The silence of my own apartment was the most shocking part. I had expected screaming, crying, a dramatic confrontation. But the only sound was the soft rustle of expensive ivory silk as my best friend of 20 years turned slowly from the full-length mirror. Her back was to me, but I could see her face in the reflection. Her eyes were wide, her lips parted in a perfect imitation of bridal bliss. She was wearing my wedding dress. It was fitted to her body as if it had been made for her, which was, of course, impossible. I was standing in the doorway, my keys still in my hand, frozen in place by a cold, creeping horror that felt like ice water flooding my veins. My fiancé, Mark, was kneeling on the floor behind her, not in shock, but in adoration, adjusting the lace hem of the train. He looked up, his eyes met mine in the mirror, and his face didn't register guilt. It registered annoyance. Annoyance that I was home early. My maid of honor and my future husband in my apartment with my dress 3 days before my wedding. Jenna, my best friend, finally spoke, her voice a dreamy, airy whisper, as if she were practicing. I, Jenna, take you, Mark, to be my lawfully wedded husband. Mark smiled up at her, a genuine, loving smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I know this looks bad, he said to my reflection in the mirror, his voice casual, as if I had just walked in on him eating the last cookie. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't do anything they expected. In that single, crystal-clear moment of betrayal, the past 20 years of my life replayed in my mind, not as a friendship, but as a long, slow, methodical theft, and this was the final heist. She wasn't just trying on my dress. She was trying on my life, making sure it was a perfect fit before she discarded me and took it for herself. Have you ever had a friend who seemed more like a shadow? Someone who wanted your life instead of building their own? It's a chilling feeling when you realize imitation isn't flattery, it's an invasion. It's a sign that the person you trust most might just be waiting for the chance to replace you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from tonight and if you have ever felt that cold chill of a friendship that feels more like a rivalry. Please give this video a like and subscribe to join a community of people who understand. To understand how I ended up a ghost at my own wedding, you have to understand my friendship with Jenna. It wasn't a friendship. It was a parasitic relationship, and I had been the host for 2 decades. Jenna and I met when we were 7. She was the new girl in school, shy and awkward, and I felt sorry for her. I invited her to sit at my lunch table, and from that day forward, we were inseparable. Maya and Jenna, a single entity. At first, her imitation was endearing. She'd beg her mom to buy her the same backpack as me, the same sneakers. I thought it was cute. It was the ultimate compliment. As we grew up, the imitation became more ingrained. In high school, I'd get a new haircut, and a week later, Jenna would show up with the exact same style. I developed a passion for photography, and suddenly, Jenna was begging her parents for a professional camera. I was the trendsetter. She was the devoted follower. It defined our dynamic. I was the sun, and she was the planet who happily orbited around me, reflecting my light. My parents adored her. She was always at our house, the daughter they never had. She was polite, charming, and always knew the right thing to say. She learned to mimic my mannerisms, my speech patterns, the way I tilted my head when I was listening. It was subtle, but it was constant. Looking back, she wasn't becoming my friend. She was studying me. I was the one with the clear plan. I wanted to be an event planner. I was organized, creative, and loved bringing people joy. I went to college, got my degree, and landed a great job at a top firm in the city. Jenna, who had no real ambitions of her own, followed me. She got a degree in communications, and through my own father's recommendation, got an administrative job at the same company, 2 floors below me. "Isn't it great we can commute together?" she'd say, her eyes shining with excitement. I moved into a beautiful apartment in a new building, and 3 months later, Jenna broke her lease and moved into a unit just down the hall. We can be like Monica and Rachel. She laughed. Every milestone in my life, she was right there, not just beside me, but trying to merge with me. When I met Mark, it was the same story. He was a kind, steady lawyer, the exact opposite of the dramatic, unstable men Jenna always seemed to date. He was my rock. When I introduced them, she laid the charm on thick. Oh my gosh, Maya, he's perfect. You deserve someone this wonderful. She quickly became our third wheel. If Mark and I had dinner plans, she'd text, asking if she could join, complaining about her latest bad date. I, being the ever-accommodating friend, would always say yes. Mark, at first, found it a bit strange, but Jenna was an expert at winning people over. She'd flatter him, hang on his every word, and soon he saw her as I did, just a part of the package. The passive-aggressive undermining started so subtly, I didn't even notice it. She'd give me backhanded compliments. That dress is so brave. I could never pull off something that bold. She'd borrow my favorite sweater and return it with a stain, offering 1,000 breathless apologies. In front of our friends, she'd tell embarrassing stories about me from our childhood, framing them as affectionate memories, but the subtext was always there, painting me as goofy, naive, or slightly incompetent. The real poison started when Mark and I got engaged. I asked her to be my maid of honor, of course. She cried with joy, but now I know those were tears of triumph. Her mission was entering its final phase. She inserted herself into every aspect of the wedding planning. Oh, Maya, are you sure about that caterer? I read some terrible reviews online. She'd say, showing me a single bad review she'd spent hours searching for. That venue is nice, but isn't it a little boring? You deserve a fairy tale. She wasn't helping me plan my dream wedding. She was trying to plan her dream wedding. She would subtly push Mark's buttons, creating tiny fissures in our relationship. Mark works so hard. Are you sure you're appreciating him enough? He seems a little stressed lately, she would say to me in a concerned whisper. Then she would go to Mark. Maya seems really overwhelmed with the wedding. Be patient with her. She's been a little snappy lately, but it's just the stress. She was positioning herself as the neutral, supportive confidant to us both, all while planting seeds of doubt and discord. I was so blinded by 20 years of friendship, I couldn't see it. I thought she was just being her usual, overly involved self. I was the frog in a pot of slowly boiling water, and I didn't realize the danger until it was far too late. Then came the dress. I found it in a small boutique. It was perfect, simple, elegant, timeless. It was me. Jenna was with me when I bought it. She had watched, her eyes strangely blank, as I stood on the pedestal, crying happy tears. 2 weeks before the wedding, the final adjustments were done. I brought the dress home and stored it carefully in my spare room. That was my mistake. I had let the enemy inside the gates, and I had just handed her my armor. The silence in the room stretched for an eternity. Mark finally scrambled to his feet, his face a jumble of panic and pathetic excuses. Maya, honey, this isn't... We were just... Jenna, however, recovered much faster. The dreamy bride look vanished, replaced by a cold, hard glare. This was the real Jenna, the one who had been hiding in plain sight for 2 decades. Well, the secret's out now, isn't it? She said, not to me, but to Mark, her voice dripping with annoyance. She looked down at the dress, my dress, and smoothed the bodice. It is a beautiful dress, though. I have to give you that. You always did have good taste. The sheer audacity of it snapped me out of my shock. The years of being the nice, accommodating, bigger person fell away from me like a heavy cloak. Get it off, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Excuse me? Jenna replied, raising a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Get my dress off, get out of my apartment, and get out of my life. Both of you. I looked at Mark, the man I had loved, the man I thought I was going to build a life with. There was nothing there. just a hollowed-out coward who would let a predator into our home. "We're over, Mark. The wedding is off." He had the nerve to look shocked. "What? You can't be serious over one little misunderstanding?" "A misunderstanding?" I asked, a laugh bubbling up in my throat, a sound completely devoid of humor. "You are kneeling at the feet of my best friend while she is wearing my wedding dress 3 days before our wedding. The only misunderstanding is that you ever thought I was stupid enough to forgive this." I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Out." Jenna, seeing her victory was complete, finally dropped the pretense. She shot me a look of pure, unadulterated triumph, a smirk that said, "I won." She glided past me, still wearing my dress, a queen leaving a conquered castle. Mark followed her like a beaten dog. The door clicked shut behind them, and I was finally, utterly alone. And then I didn't collapse. I didn't shatter into a million pieces. The adrenaline, the rage, it was a strange kind of fuel. I spent the next 2 days in a blur of cold logistical fury. I called the venue. I called the caterer. I called all 150 guests and told them the wedding was canceled. I endured the gasps, the whispers, the intrusive questions. With each call, my voice got steadier, my resolve harder. Then came the twist. My honeymoon. Mark and I had booked a dream 2-week trip to Italy, a non-refundable, non-transferable, pay-in-full trip of a lifetime. The tickets and hotel vouchers were in my name. I was supposed to be in Tuscany right now, drinking wine and eating pasta as Mrs. Mark Callahan. Instead, I was sitting on my floor surrounded by useless wedding decorations. On a wild, desperate impulse, I threw some clothes in his suitcase, grabbed my passport and the travel vouchers, and went to the airport alone. It was the best decision I ever made. For 2 weeks, I disappeared. No phone, no email, no social media. I wandered through Florence. I got lost in the hills of Tuscany. I sat by the sea on the Amalfi Coast. I ate what I wanted. I did what I wanted. I remembered who Maya was when she wasn't part of Maya and Jenna or Maya and Mark. I was a person, an entire person, all by myself. I started taking pictures again, my old passion reignited by the beauty around me. I felt the calluses on my heart begin to soften. I was healing. I had no idea that while I was finding myself, my enemies back home were trying to erase me completely. Jenna, the master manipulator, had wasted no time. She and Mark had immediately spun a new narrative. They told our friends, my family, that I had suffered a complete mental breakdown, that I had become paranoid and delusional, that I had called off the wedding in a fit of rage and then vanished without a word. They were so worried about me. Jenna played the part of the devoted, heartbroken friend to perfection. Mark played the jilted, concerned fiancé. They were a team, united in their concern for my well-being, and people, for the most part, believed them. They took my absence and weaponized it. They called my landlord and told him I had abandoned my apartment. He, seeing a chance to break the lease and raise the rent, changed the locks. They called my boss, telling her that I had quit my job without notice, a clear sign of my instability. My position, the one I had worked so hard for, was filled within a week. They were systematically dismantling my life, piece by piece, while I was blissfully unaware, eating gelato in Rome. They weren't just content with stealing my fiancé. They wanted to steal my home, my career, my reputation. They wanted to salt the earth so that when I returned, there would be nothing left for me to come back to. They were counting on me to return broken, defeated, and alone, thereby proving their story was true. They had severely, fatally underestimated me. I returned from Italy a different woman. I was tanned, rested, and for the first time in a long time, I was truly happy. The peace lasted for approximately 12 minutes. It shattered the moment my key wouldn't turn in the lock of my own apartment door. A formal eviction notice was taped to the wood, citing lease abandonment. My blood ran cold. I called my landlord, who informed me in a cold, bureaucratic tone that my friend and my ex-fiancé had informed me I had moved out and that my belongings would be held in storage for 30 days before being disposed of. Next, I called my office. My boss was sympathetic but firm. Maya, I'm so sorry for what you're going through, but you didn't show up for a week. We had to fill the position. HR can send you the paperwork for your final paycheck. My stomach twisted into a knot. This was coordinated. This was a deliberate, malicious attack. They hadn't just betrayed me. They were trying to annihilate me. The old Maya would have crumpled. She would have cried. She would have despaired. But the woman who came back from Italy, the woman who had navigated a foreign country all by herself, was not that woman. The hurt was still there, a deep, aching bruise on my soul, but it was now overlaid with a layer of pure, cold, diamond-hard fury. I got a hotel room and I started making a plan. They thought they had erased me. They had no idea they had just given me a completely blank slate on which to write my revenge. I started by calling the few friends I knew had always been a little wary of Jenna's intensity. I told them the truth, the whole story, from the dress to the locked drawer. As I suspected, they had been skeptical of Jenna's narrative. They became my allies, my private investigators. They discovered the date for Jenna and Mark's engagement party. It was in 2 weeks at a posh downtown restaurant. It was to be their official debut as a couple, the final victory lap in their campaign of deceit. They had invited everyone from my old life, a public showcase of how they had won. It was the perfect stage. For the next 2 weeks, I gathered my ammunition. I found old text messages where Jenna admitted to borrowing my ideas for work projects. I found emails where she had helpfully advised me against career moves that would have led to a promotion she later got. I compiled a digital folder of dozens of photos spanning years, showing her systematically copying my style, my hobbies, my life. And I had my final weapon. The photos from my trip to Italy. Beautiful, vibrant, sun-drenched photos of a woman who was anything but having a mental breakdown. The night of the party, I dressed with the precision of a soldier preparing for battle. I didn't choose a revenge dress, something flashy or provocative. I chose a simple, elegant black dress. I looked calm, powerful, and sane. I walked into the restaurant, and the chatter immediately died down. Every head turned. Mark and Jenna were in the center of the room, holding court. Jenna's face, for a split second, flashed with pure terror before she composed it into a mask of pitying concern. Mark just looked pale and weak. "Maya!" Jenna rushed towards me, her arms outstretched for a hug. "Oh my God, we were so worried. Where have you been?" I stepped back, avoiding her embrace. "I've been in Italy. On my honeymoon. It was lovely, by the way. You should go sometime, Jenna. You'd love it. You love everything I love." My voice was calm, conversational, but it carried across the silent room. I gestured to the large screen behind the bar where a slideshow of Jenna and Mark was playing. "I have a few photos I'd like to share as well. An engagement gift." I handed a USB stick to the bartender, who, at a nod from one of my allied friends, plugged it into the laptop. The slideshow of the happy couple was replaced by a photo of me, smiling, raising a glass of Prosecco with the Colosseum in the background, then another of me on a Vespa in Tuscany, then another of me laughing on a beach in Positano. The pictures were filled with life, joy, and sanity. Then the images changed. A split screen. On one side, me in my prom dress. On the other, Jenna, a week later in a dress of the same style and color. Me with my first car, Jenna 2 months later with the same make and model. Me with my signature haircut, Jenna a week later with the same cut. Photo after photo, a decade of obsessive imitation laid bare for all to see. And I had my final image. A text message screenshot that Jenna had sent me years ago, after I had told her a secret I had never told anyone else. "I just want to be you for a day," the text read. The screen went blank. I turned to face the stunned crowd. For 20 years, I thought I had a best friend. I said, my voice strong and clear. It turns out I had an understudy, someone who was just waiting in the wings for her chance to take over the lead role. She didn't just want a friend, she wanted my life. And she enlisted my fiancé to help her steal it. I looked at Mark, who wouldn't meet my eyes. She told you all I had a breakdown, that I was unstable. The truth is, I just went on the vacation we had planned. And while I was gone, these two, in their concerned state, had me evicted from my apartment and fired from my job. This wasn't concern. This was a calculated erasure. I let my gaze settle on Jenna. She was ashen-faced, her perfect facade completely shattered. She was exposed. So, congratulations, Jenna. You win. You get the man, the party, the life you've spent 2 decades trying to copy. I hope it was worth it, because I don't need to steal someone else's life. I'm going to go build a new one, a better one, an original one. And with that, I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving the smoldering wreckage of their reputation behind me. It wasn't a screaming match. It was a quiet, precise demolition. The fallout from that night was total. Jenna and Mark became social pariahs. His law firm, embarrassed by the public scandal, encouraged him to resign. Jenna was ostracized by everyone who had once been my friend. Their relationship, built on a foundation of lies and deceit, crumbled under the weight of the public shame within 6 months. They were left with nothing but each other. And it turned out that wasn't enough. I, on the other hand, thrived. The story of my honeymoon for one and the dramatic party confrontation went viral in our community. An editor from a local online magazine reached out. They asked me to write an article about my experience. I did. I wrote about the betrayal, but more importantly, I wrote about the healing power of solo travel. I included my photographs from Italy. The article was a sensation. It led to more writing assignments, a popular travel blog, and eventually a book deal. I took my passion for photography and planning and turned it into my own business. I now curate bespoke travel experiences for women who need to reconnect with themselves. I am more successful, more fulfilled, and happier than I ever was in my old life. I found love again, too. A kind, creative man who loves me for my strength and my independence. Not as someone to be molded or managed. He's my partner, not my owner. My life today is not the one I had planned, the one that was stolen from me. It's so much better. The betrayal was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it was also the best. It was a forest fire that cleared out all the dead wood and allowed something new and beautiful to grow in its place. I am not a copy of anyone. I am, finally and completely, an original. Have you ever had to walk away from a toxic friendship to save yourself? Share your story of liberation in the comments below. Your strength can be a beacon for someone else who was lost in the dark. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories about turning betrayal into triumph. Remember, when someone tries to tear down your world, they are giving you the opportunity to build a new one exactly the way you want it.